Hello everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend today's session. I hope you are enjoying the industry conference and hope you're having a great day. Also, happy Friday, everyone. So my name is Karan. I'm Karan Nisar. I'm a solutions engineer with TIBCO Software, and today I'll be walking over through the TIBCO's BI analytics platform, which we call as TIBCO Spotfire. And what I'll be doing is I'll show in some of the features of the TIBCO Spotfire platform. I'll also build a dashboard parallelly with you. So that, just to give you a look and feel of how easy it is to bring in a data, work with different personas, build in a dashboard. Definitely, there are so many aspects that come into play just for building a dashboard, getting to that KPIs, understanding what a data means. So I'll be just walking in through that demo. So before I get started, I would just like to get to know the audience. So, if you can just write on the chat your current roles, what is it that you're doing? That will just help me understand the audience and accordingly. If there is something particular you would like to understand about building a BI dashboard, or just you would want me to go deeper into a particular topic, feel free to write that on the chat. I'll try to constantly monitor the chat. And at any point, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask that question using the ask a question, or even you can just write that on the chat as well. I'll try to monitor the chat, and I'll make sure all your questions are answered. So with that, let me just get started. Let me just share my screen. So uh, Again, let me know if you aren't able to see my screen, or if my screen's, I would say, not enlarged enough. Just feel free to write anything on the chat. I'll just make sure if something's not working, I'll make sure it's good and it's fine. Awesome. All right. Okay. So I see there is a data engineer. That's great to have. I'll be definitely talking about how how TIBCO Spotfire can be useful for a data engineer. Others feel free to write. So accordingly, I can make sure I'll have that in my demo as well. Yep. Thank you so much, David. Yep. So with that, let me just get started. Just a standard confidentiality and disclaimer slide. Let me just give a quick introduction on TIBCO. Some of you might be aware, some of you might not be aware. So TIBCO started around 25 years ago, primarily in the integration space. It was, I would say, the backbone of a lot of the financial firms in the Wall Street. So, and over a period of time, with multiple acquisitions and constantly upgrading their products, we now have multiple products into wide variety of domains. And what we have done is we have currently classified or divided all of our products and capabilities in these three different sections, which we call as three pillars. So the first pillar is the connect pillar, which essentially means, anytime you would want to do something with your data, the first and the primary step is ensuring you're able to access that data. You're able to connect to that data source. So that's where our connect piece lies in. This is primarily, I would say, the integration piece. Once you are connected, you would want to ensure, you have a better access, you have better control, you have better governance on your data. A lot of times, just for building simple dashboards, you might have to wait for an IT just to make sure they give you access to a particular data set. Sometimes, there are a lot of those Excel files, local CSV files that are just lying around, which is very difficult to manage. That's where the second pillar, or the unify pillar, comes into play. And I would say the third pillar and the focus of today's topic is our predict pillar. So once you have, I would say, access to your data, you have better governance, you have better control on your data. You would want to make some kind of sense out of that data, meaning you would want to apply some kind of analytics. It can be just a visual analytics just to see what the data is showing. Even, try to get deeper into that data science, but just try to apply some kind of data science models. At the same time, with the advent, I would say, of these recent technologies such as 5G, and with more and more IoT sensors coming in, there is also a huge demand for streaming analytics. So you can apply all of that visual analytics and data science on your streaming data. So focus of my today's talk would be on the visual analytics domain. And I'll just show you in the demo as well. I'll just go over to one more slide and I'll just get into the demo. I won't bore you guys with any further slides. So just to give talk about, I would say, just to introduce visual analytics, or just to introduce this concept, Currently what's happening right now in the industry is there is a great convergence that's happening. I mean, so it's not just a convergence in terms of human insights, automation, or AI, but also it's a convergence in terms of different personas. I mean, as you might be well aware, I mean, analytics is a team sport. There are so many steps that goes into play. I mean, right from bringing in your data, almost, I mean, a lot of times data is never clean. I mean, according to the analyst firms, almost around 80% of the time is being spent in just cleaning that data. I mean, so the data needs to be cleaned just to ensure you can perform some kind of analytics on that. So that's where you have that data engineer persona. So I know, I mean, some of you guys are data engineers attending this session. So I'll again show you how you can use TIBCO Spotfire to make sure your data is clean enough before you can proceed to your visualization. The next is once you have this data clean, then you would want to build some kind of analytics. You would want to build some kind of dashboard on that. So that's where you have that data analyst or a BI developer persona in here. So once that, what's the primary focus is to build a dashboard, try to make sense out of that data. Well, I mean, apart from that, I mean, Gartner, a leading industry, and I mean, I would say a leading firm, talks, I mean, divides analytics into four different types. The first is the descriptive analytics. The next is the diagnostic analytics. The third is the predictive analytics, and the fourth is the prescriptive analytics. So now, what of these four, what all these four terms mean is, so the first is descriptive analytics. That's trying to answer the question of what. What is your data showing? I mean, what is it that you're seeing? I mean, is it something good? It can be something bad, but you just want to get an answer to that what. That's a descriptive analytics, which, I mean, you would have your data analyst or a BI developer trying to understand that. Now, once you see or get an idea on the descriptive analytics, you now know, okay, if something's going good, okay, it's good. But now I would want to understand the root cause and just to see why is that particular thing going as expected, just so that I can ensure, I mean, me or my company in general, and try to make sure we just stick to that path. Or if something's not going good, if something's going, I mean, south, or something's not going as expected, again, you would now want to diagnose, or you would want to have that diagnostic analytics on that to get to that root cause, just to see if there is something in your data that helps you understand why something is not going good, so that you can ensure, I mean, you don't repeat those same things again. So that's where, I mean, you have the descriptive and the diagnostic analytics. The third thing, I mean, is the prescriptive, oh, sorry, is the predictive analytics. Now, once you have some kind of historical data, you have understood some kind of trends on that data, you would now want to make some kind of predictions. So, hey, I mean, based on my past data, this is what I see. Okay, this is good. So let's keep continuing that. And let's try to build or come up with some kind of a predictive model to predict the likability of a thing, I mean, going good or going bad in the near future. That's where you have this person, a data scientist, or even a citizen data scientist, or any citizen persona who would want to build some kind of models using, I mean, either writing their own scripts or either just using, I would say, a no code, low code environment. So all of these different personas are required just to get or make some sense out of that data. And you can see TIBCO Spotfire sits right in the center of that convergence. I'll walk through all of these different personas in detail in my demo as well. But this is, I mean, I would say just wanted to give you a quick overview of what, I mean, the different, I would say the categories of the visual analytics is and how these different components come into play in just single tool as well. So with that, let me just move on to the demo and let me just show you how the typical Spotfire looks, how can bring in a data set, how these different personas can work within the same platform. So with that, let me just move on to my new, so this, what you're seeing on the screen here is TIBCO Spotfire. So once you are installed and you open the TIBCO's BI platform, this is what, I mean, this is the welcome screen that you will be prompted to. I'll just give a quick pause and see if there is anything in the chat. Okay, so I see there is someone is a beginner in data analytics. Someone is a principal data scientist in healthcare. I mean, yeah, that's another important topic. I mean, there are lots and lots of applications in healthcare. Classification, alerting, earning. Definitely. I mean, yeah, I don't think I have an exact demo for healthcare, but I'm pretty sure I have an alerting mechanism. I'll just get into that detail as well. I do have a general counsel and VP of risk management. I used Spotfire in the previous role. I mean, yeah, that's great to know, Brian. I mean, yep. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I hope you keep using Spotfire. All right. So with that, just let me just get into the demo. So what we'll be doing here, I'll be bringing in a very simple sales data set just so that it becomes easy for everyone to understand. I mean, since it's a sales data set, so this data set is for a store. It's for a company that has stores all across the United States. And what we will be doing is we'll be just going into these individual personas, just try to make, I mean, just trying to give you a flavor of how all of them can just use the same platform, and you can see that convergence right now in my demo. So the first thing, as I said, in order to do perform any kind of analytics is data. The first thing you would want to do is connect to your data set. So there you can use this plus icon that you can see on the top left section. Once you click on that plus icon, you can just click on this connect to section. And what this will do is this will give you all of that native connectors that Spotfire has, right? I mean, built in inside the tool. So let's say if you have data sitting in on Amazon Redshift, or you have data coming in from a Microsoft SQL server, or any kind of different database, you can just use this built-in connectors. I mean, again, a thing to note, I mean, you're not just restricted to just these connectors. I mean, definitely, I mean, there are newer and newer, I would say, databases, or there can be some database that you might be using, which is not might not be there in this list. Essentially, you can also connect to some of those external data sources as well. You can build in your own custom data source connector as well. So you are not just restricted to using these data sources. So for the purpose of this demo, I have a CSV file that's there on my machine. What I'll do is I'll use this browse local file option. So once I click here, I can now select any data set that I have on my screen. Let's say in this particular, for the particular purpose of this demo, I'll just select this without location data set. So once I click open, you'll now see Spotfire will give me an option to validate my data set. I mean, the Spotfire was, I mean, automatically smart enough to identify that this was a CSV file. So it has already identified it as a comma separator. But let's say you have a TSV file and some things is not right. You can just make that change here. At the same time, you can ensure all of these categories are correctly identified. So let's say if something, I mean, say for some reason, this might be a different category, I can just make sure it's an integer or it's a real field. I can make all of that changes here just so that I'm good to go with my data set. A lot of times you might be using Excel. So if you just would want to bring an Excel sheet in here, a lot of times, I mean, you do have those empty rows. You can again, I mean, use this drop down here and you can choose to ignore that particular row if you want. So this is, I would say, the first step where you can just eliminate or just have that data sanity, just to make sure you're bringing in the correct data. So once you're good to go, you can just click OK. So here I'll just click OK. And what Spotfire will do is it will bring that data set into my analysis, and it will try to make sure my data is ready for visualization. Again, I mean, since I had this dashboard pre-built, I already had a similar data set or similar metadata in my particular analysis. So you see Spotfire is smart enough to identify that I have a similar metadata structure. So that's why it's giving me a recommendation if I would want to import that, I mean, just join that to my existing data set. But for the purpose of this demo, I'll just have a fresh, I'll just have a fresh data set. So I'll just skip that option and I'll add that as a new data table. So once I click OK, you'll now see your data is ready. When you now have that data brought into your dashboard, ready to perform any kind, I mean, all those steps that I just mentioned. So now let me be a data engineer persona. I mean, I said the first step in order to do analytics is to ensure your data is in the right format. So again, I mean, you do not have to be dependent, or you do not have to go to some external tool or write in your own custom script externally just to perform those data cleaning operations or this data munging operations. You can do that right within the TIBCO Spotfire platform as well. So if you look at the bottom left here, if you click this particular icon, this will lead you to the data canvas panel. And this is essentially, I would say, the data preparation, the data munging panel. So where you can perform all kind of data transformation. So let's say me being a data engineer, I I do want to understand and try to make sure my data is in the right format so that my data analyst or BI developers the dashboards that they build are built on a good quality data set and not a bad one. So this gives you, I would say, a quick preview of what a data set is so that you know, okay, if something's not right, you can perform a bunch of different operations. So again, I mean, let's say, I mean, a lot of times data is not clean enough. So just for this demo, I mean, I've just used a very simple data set. A lot of times you would want to make some kind of transformations. You would want to apply or calculate a new column. You would want to make some kind of normalization. You can just click this plus icon. You can click on add transformations, and here you have these bunch of different transformation options. So, I mean, again, this is a sales data set. I think the primary thing that it will have is, I mean, I would be interested to know is a profit or a loss column. So let's say if I do not have that explicit profit or loss column, but I have, let's just choose a simple example. I just have the buying cost and the selling cost. So essentially, I can just calculate a new column. I can just write in my own expression. I can just I can just subtract these two columns, and there I have it. I have my new column called profit. I mean, that was a very simple example, but essentially, you see, you have the support of all of these different functions. I mean, there are tons and tons of functions in here, and all of these functions have an explanation with an example just so that it's easy enough to understand the syntax and just to give you a definition of what these functions mean. So you have the support of these different functions just so that you can apply to that data set and make sure you have the correct values, you have the correct columns. And once you're good to go, you can just click OK, and that change will be automatically applied to your data set. Again, I mean, this data set talks about, I mean, sales data set, as I said, it's for stores all across the United States. So another thing, I mean, let's say, I mean, this data set does not have any location field in here, but I know there is another location data set that's lying in some external database. And I would also want that to be incorporated into my analysis. So again, I can just perform a join right within this data canvas palette here. Again, I can just click on this plus icon. I can click on add columns, and now I can select my data set. I mean, again, for the purpose of this demo, I have my data set on my local directory. But let's say if you have it on any database, you can just use that database connector and just access that database. Let's say here I'm interested in my location data. I'll again select my location data. I'll again validate if everything's looking good. I am good with all my data sets. So I can just click OK, and now here you see Spotify is giving me an option. It's trying to understand, and it's also giving me a recommendation of what it feels is the best possible, I would say, join operation or best possible way to combine these data sets. So once I click on settings here, you can now see Spotify has automatically performed the join for me. It has automatically identified a common primary key or a common column here. But let's say, I mean, if you do not have it, I mean, it's as straightforward as the case here. You can again add your own match here. You can just ensure or let Spotify know, hey, these are the two columns I would want to perform a join on, or these are, I mean, this is the primary column, this is the secondary key. You can just have multiple columns. Essentially, you can choose to keep all the columns or again remove any of those columns, and you can see all of that in the preview option here. Let's say I do not want my city here, so you can see currently I see a city, but as and when I uncheck that option, the city will be no longer there in my analysis. I'll just keep that, I'll just keep the original data set. Again, I mean, this is a by default a left out outer join that has been performed, but let's say, I mean, it's giving you a flexibility of what kind of join you would want to perform, just so that, I mean, if you would want to do a full outer join, I mean, it's just, you have the total control. You can perform anything, have a look at the quick preview, and once you're good to go, you can just click on this OK. Once I validate that and again click OK, you'll now see my data canvas has that visual workflow. Another benefit of having that visual workflow is, I mean, a lot of times, I mean, you won't have a data set which will have just that simple join operations. There will be so many data transformations that will go along the way, and sometimes writing a script can be very tedious if you would want to make some changes in your initial step. But the benefit of having this data canvas palette and having this, I would say, the workflow is at every point you can see what's happening. It's, I would say, a visually driven workflow. So I know, I mean, initially I had this data set. I just brought in my location data. I performed the join, and now I have this final table. I can get a quick preview of that. At the same time, if I would want to make any change here, I can just go back to my workflow. click on the settings, make the recommended change, and I'm good to go. All of that would be applied to all of my downstream transformations, and you can again validate if your data is good. So this is the data engineer persona that I was just talking about. So now I'm good with my data set. Let me just, go down and just transition into that data analyst persona or the BI developer. So again, I'll click this bottom left data canvas icon and I'll exit in from my data canvas. And now I am a BI developer. I'm tasked, my management wants me to build a dashboard. So that helps them identify which of the stores are performing well, which are not performing well. So again, what I can do is I can start from my visualization. Just to give a quick preview, I can just see, what my data set looks like. So definitely I have some of my subcategories. Since it's a sales data set, I have profit in here. So, sorry, where is it? Oops. There you go. I just missed my profit column in here. Yep. Sorry. So I do have my profit column in here. So again, the first and the primary thing I'm interested is try to identify which of my subcategories are performing good, which are not performing good. Again, you do have a lot of these native visualizations within the Spotfire platform. Again, a thing to keep in mind, it's you're not just restricted to these native visualizations. I'll just talk about that at the later section, but again, just a thing to keep in mind. So now let's say I'm a data analyst. I know I would want to compare my subcategories with my profit, but I'm not sure what's the best possible visualization. Is it a bar chart? Is it a line chart? Is it a scatter plot? And I don't have the time. Definitely the most rudimentary way would be to try and build all of those visuals and just see which is the best. But that can be a lot cumbersome if you would want, and it's a lot of time consuming and not efficient also. So again, Spotfire is designed to give you that immersive, smart, and real-time experience. So when I talk about that smart experience, the Spotfire has a built-in natural language querying engine. So what this essentially means is if you click on this search icon here, or essentially if you just type Control F, you will be prompted with this dialog box. And all you need to do is just write in plain simple English what you're interested in. Let's say here I'm interested in comparing my subcategories with my profit. So I can just type uh, profit versus subcategory. And what Spotify will do in the background is it will try to analyze and understand the particular text that I have written. And then the natural language querying engine will just try to make sure what's the best. Oops, I just canceled that. Profit versus. Yeah, it will try to analyze and then come up with the best possible visual for that text that I've just written. So again, that eliminates all of my confusion. So now you can see Spotify is suggesting that bar chart is the best possible visual if I would want to compare my profit and subcategory. And all I need to do is with just one click, boom, I have my data. I have my first visual. I have that. I'm now there to that first step of descriptive analytics, trying to get an answer of what is it that my data is showing. Essentially you can do the same thing. Again, it's either ways. There are multiple ways to solve a problem. There are again multiple ways to build a visualization. Let me just show you how you would do that ideally. So ideally in a typical BI tool, you would bring a bar chart, drag and drop that bar chart. Let me just clear this for better space. Again, I would want to compare my subcategories, so I can select that subcategory. I would want to compare my profit on my y-axis, so I can select my profit. Again, I do have a similar looking visual, but it's still not that pretty enough because this makes it a lot easier. So again, I'll have to click the settings icon, click on appearance, and then sort bars by value. And there I have the exact same visual. But you saw, this particular step requires few extra clicks. Again, there's nothing harm or there's nothing wrong in that. It's just this can be, this gives you that smart experience. It makes it a lot easier. It saves a lot of time and also gives you the recommendation of the best possible visual. So this is, I would say, how you can use a natural language querying engine to just perform some kind of, just build in any kind of dashboard. So there you have it. So now we are at the first step of a descriptive analytics. It's giving an answer of what is it happening. What's the performance of my subcategories? And there I can see something very distinctly that pops out here. I see everything's going good except this generator subcategory. And I mean, I'm pretty sure my the leadership would want to identify, would want me to understand why is it? I mean, just try to get to that diagnostic analytics piece, try to get the question, answer to the question of why. Why do you see something very bad or you see a huge loss in the generator subcategory? So again, I mean, as long as your data persists, you can just I mean you can use TIBCO Spotfire to just get to that answer, get an answer to your diagnostic analytics. So again, Spotfire has another feature which we call as drill down. So you can again right click on that data set, you can create a detailed visualization. Let's say I would want to be interested in my timeline. Since it's a sales data set, I'll definitely have a time series, I'll definitely have a date in there. Let me just create a line chart here. And again, I'm interested in my date. So again, I can click on my order date. You can just see, I mean, Spotfire is giving you that options. I mean, it's automatically binned all of that dates in terms of years, quarter, month, day of month, as and how you want. So let's say here I'm interested to see my performance over quarters over different years. I can again select that. And now I am into my drill down visual. So once I select my generator subcategory, all I'll see is only the data pertaining to that generator subcategory. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm just drilling down into my data set deeper and deeper as long as my data persists, trying to get an answer to the question of why, trying to do that diagnostic analytics. So just, I mean, as long as that helps me, I can just use that to narrow it down or pinpoint to that exact point. So again, I can see something's bad. I mean, overall it's not good, but something's very bad in this Q2 and Q4 of the year 2015. I can again use that drill down capability or the drill down feature of Spotfire and try to get to that root cause. Another thing, I mean, we just incorporated our location data set. So again, I mean, Spotfire has a very strong geo analytic capabilities. Let me again create a detailed visualization, and let's just see if there is, I would say, a particular region that's affecting this. Is it because of, I would say, a catastrophic thing happening at a particular coast? It can be because of a hurricane hitting the east coast. That can be a possible reason. So again, let's just select these two quarters and let's just have them plot on our map. Again, once I zoom in, I see, okay, I see a huge bubble in the east coast, somewhere in the northeast. And probably, I mean, that can be I would say that can be a reason. So again, that helps me drill down. So what I can do is I can just contact my sales office in this particular region, trying to understand, I mean, what happened. Was there some delay in shipment? Was there some catastrophic event that happened? And that would just help me identify to that root cause. If not, just eliminate, I would say, a potential reason. So this is how you can, I mean, how a data analyst or BI developer can use the TIBCO Spotfire platform to get answers or try to figure out that descriptive and diagnostic analytics. Uh, if there are any questions at this point, I mean, feel free to ask them in the Q&A section or write them in the chat. I have Mina saying this auto suggestion for visualization seems interesting. Oh yeah, I mean this was a complete game changer. I mean I was just completely awestruck by that. I think this was a new feature that was released post Spotfire 10 version. When before that we didn't have this feature and it was a complete game changer. I mean for me it just saves a lot of time and effort to just build a dashboard. So it's definitely a great feature to use and I would highly recommend everyone to just use this feature. It will just save a lot of time. All right. Yeah. Feel free to write any comments, questions in the chat. I'll just keep on monitoring here. All right. Yeah. So let me just switch to my pre-built dashboard here. So here you can see this is my pre-built dashboard. Again, I mean, this is the same visual that I was building here, but let me just get into that uh, predictive analytics piece. So let's say I am a citizen data scientist. I mean, a citizen user is a person who understands all of that technical aspects but would prefer to not write their own scripts. I mean they have that understanding but they would just want to use that no code low code interface. So let's say I am a citizen user and now I my data analyst has done a very good job in drilling down into my data set, trying to identify that root cause. And now what I as a citizen data scientist I'm tasked to do is I'm tasked to build or come up with a predictive model or just try to identify the trends of my sales data. So again, I mean, Spotfire does have, I mean, as I said, I mean, Spotfire is not just a traditional BI tool. It has capabilities far beyond that. The Spotfire, along with those traditional BI capabilities, it has features for a lot of these advanced analytics as well. So you can, I mean, that's why you see that great convergence for these different personas. So a lot of a data scientists, just citizen data scientists, can again use this platform to build some kind of an advanced analytics model, and you have a lot of these features right within the tool with just few clicks, writing without writing any scripts here. So again, if you click on the tools icon here, you can see, I mean, Spotfire does have built in, I would say, options for creating any kind of clusterings. Again, you can create some kind of a modeling operations. You can again create a line similarity. I mean, all of these are just few clicks away. Let me just show you, I would say, two examples here. The first, let me just show you an example of how you can use line similarity and how easy it is to perform or build in your line similarity model. So let's say I have this line chart here. And what I'm essentially interested in is I would want to compare which of my subcategories are performing well. I mean, which of these following subcategories are being sold together a lot. That's where I can use this line similarity model. So let's say I'm interested in my computer subcategory. And I would just want to build a line similarity model just to get all of those other subcategories that show a similar trend to my computer, a similar trend, a sales trend to my computer. So essentially what I can do is I can just select or highlight that computer line here. I can essentially just go on to tools and click on line similarity, or I can just right click on this visual and just select line similarity here. And this will prompt a line similarity dialog box. And this you can see is a very easy, just few clicks away. You can now select what are the distance measure you want. So you have an option of a correlation similarity or an Euclidean distance. I mean, as a citizen data scientist, I do know what this means, but essentially I'm not interested in writing a script. So again, I mean, here I would just want to identify the trend that any other subcategory follows as a computer. I'll just choose a correlation similarity because I'm only interested in my trend, not interested, I would say, in the I would say the similar distances. So I won't select Euclidean, but essentially based on your use case, you can select either one of them. I can select my correlation similarity here. And now I'll tell Spotfire, hey, I want my correlation similarity. I want my line similarity model to be based on this marked line here, which pertains to the computer subcategory. And that's it. That's all the configuration I need to do. And once I click OK, Spotfire will automatically run a line similarity model for me. Since I've already gone and run this model pre-hand, I won't click OK, but that's just, I mean, one click, you click OK and you will have a line similarity model. So once you do that, you can now essentially open this filters icon. You can just click in here and this will open the filters icon. And now in here, you can just search for line similarity. And here you can see Spotify has automatically created a rank. So what this rank means is this currently I have 11 subcategories. So what this rank essentially means it as in when I scroll this, I drag this to another value, Spotify will suggest, or this line similarity model that I just built will tell me which are, I would say, the top 11 lines in this case that are similar to my computer. Let me just narrow it down and let me see what are the top four categories or subcategories that show a similar trend to my computer subcategory. Let me just scroll and mark it to its four. And now I see my line similarity model is able to identify that computers, keyboards, monitors, and mouse show a similar trend of sale. And if you think about it, that actually makes sense because I mean, a lot of these things, I mean, you tend to buy one thing and there's a high chance you would buy, if you buy a computer, you would either buy a monitor, a mouse, or a keyboard. So you can again validate your line similarity model. You can see how accurate it is. And this was just, I would say, 2 or 3 clicks. No code. You do not have to write any script in here. So again, that helps me validate my model. But at the same time, I can see an interesting observation. I do see the sales of this particular subcategory monitor is not good. I mean, it's not performing as well as the other 3 subcategories. So again, that can help me, I would say, I mean, this gives an answer to that predictive analytics, but now I would want some kind of prescriptive analytics. So based on my modeling, I know I mean, monitors are not being sold a lot. So that can help me make a change in my sales strategy. So let's say I can just create a new offer. Let's say if you buy computers, keyboards, and mouse, you get an X% discount if you buy a monitor. And that can help me boost up my sales as well. Until and unless I had this feature, I had the capability of building these visualizations and building this advanced analytics model, I would not be able to make any kind of decisions. And that would, I would say, impact, or at least I would not be able to capitalize on that profit if I did not have that visibility, which I now have because of this platform. So essentially, this is how you can use the line similarity model. Just another thing I would want to highlight is definitely, I mean, this is a sales data set. I mean, sales data set, you do have a time series model. I mean, and there are multiple other scenarios as well. I mean, where you would have a time series model. So another essential thing that was be expected out of a data scientist or a citizen data scientist would be to build a forecast model in here. Again, I mean, you are just one click away. It's literally just one click where you can build in your forecast model. Actually, I've already gone and done that freehand, but essentially, if you can see, I have this bar chart here, the predictive analytics piece. All you need to do is just right click on this visual and you see this forecast operation. All you need to do is just check this option. It's already checked, but initially it will look like this, and once you right click and click on forecast, you now see Spotify has automatically created a forecast model for you. And I mean, it's not a black box models. You can, again, if you hover over those dotted lines, you can see all of those different parameters, you can see the different trends. So this is a Holt Winters forecast model, if any of you might be aware. I mean, it takes into effect the different parameters, the seasonality and the parameters. So it has those three inputs, which and it's called alpha, beta, gamma. You can see those values for those models as well. At the same time, you can make any configurations also. Again, you can just click on those settings icon. You can go onto lines and curves, and there you have it. You can just click on edit. And let's say if there is a data scientist who, or probably someone is an expert for that particular domain and understands, I mean, this data set far more better, and has his or her own calculation, you can manually make or, and I mean, edit those parameters here as well. Essentially, let's say for this case, I'm interested in 6 points ahead of time. So here we are looking at by quarters. So let's say I'm interested in 6 quarters ahead of time. You can again make sure you can edit that confidence level as well. And once I click OK, you can now see 6 quarters ahead of what my forecast model says. So this is just one click away from what you would want to do. Okay, I do see a question. It says, is there an option to write my own Python script? Definitely, I would say that's a perfect segue in here to my next topic. Essentially, I did talk a lot about not writing scripts using, I mean, very friendly with a citizen user. But that does not mean, or that does not mean we are restricting you to not writing your own scripts. You are definitely welcome to write in your own script. Spotfire does have a built-in support for that as well. Let's say you are a data scientist or someone who prefers to write his or her own script. You can again write in your own R or Python script. How you can do that? You can just click on the data column here. You can just click on data function properties. So we in Spotfire, we have what we call as data functions, where you can write in your own scripts. So you can click on register new, and there you have it. You have an option of writing in your Python script. You can just write a Python script in here. Essentially, when you can write in your R script here. So TIBCO has its own version of open source R, which we call as TER. It stands for TIBCO Enterprise Runtime for R. It's the same script. It's the same open source R language. I mean, there's no change in any script. But the only beauty of this is it's 10 times faster than open source R. So if you would want to build any kind of model on R, you can just use TER, and that would build, I mean, that would be essentially 10 times faster. So again, I mean, just another flexibility. You can also have this platform. I mean, you can also use this platform for a data scientist persona. So this is where you can write in your own scripts and build in those predictive modelings and just have that data science pipeline built in. So this is, I would say, a high level overview of how you can use TIBCO Spotfire, how TIBCO Spotfire addresses the needs of all of those different personas, and hopefully you can see the big convergence that I was just talking about, right from getting into your data set, preparing your data, performing some kind of cleaning or munging operations on it, trying to build a dashboard, get an answer to that descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive analytics, So hopefully that gives you, I would say, shed some light on how you can use this platform. Uh, in the interest of time, I think if there are any questions, just feel free to ask them on the chat. If not, you can just contact me or contact anyone at TIBCO. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions as well. Another thing I would like to highlight is we do have a very active community. So you can just, I mean, in future, if you would have any questions, you can just log on to the TIBCO community and just ask any questions. If you would want to try out the TIBCO platform, we do have a trial version. I mean, you can again just go onto TIBCO's Spotfire page. You can just try out that trial version and just get a feel of the platform yourself, try and test it out. And another thing is we do have a YouTube channel for that as well. In where we have, I would say, a lot of playlists for you getting started or just some best tips and tricks in there. So just some of the resources that can help you connect and just using that TIBCO Spotfire. So hopefully this gives you a good idea and just helps you understand the TIBCO's BI platform, TIBCO Spotfire. And I hope this was interesting. Thank you so much for joining me. Okay, I do see a question from Abhishek. It says, where can I connect with you? I'll share my email as well, or probably you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me just pull up my LinkedIn URL. Essentially, I think my LinkedIn URL is linked in with my profile. So if you can click on my profile as well, you should be able to connect with me on LinkedIn. Or wait, I had, oops, where is it? And I think, yeah, you do see the Spotfire trial version. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think my LinkedIn URL has been shared in the chat, so you can just connect with me there. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. Essentially, you do see a link on how you can register for the Spotfire trial version. So just feel free to register. And yep, thank you so much for joining. Hope you have a great rest of your day and hope you have a great weekend. Thank you.